Good morning, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Health Discourse with Sakshi and Sushant. So, hi, Sushant. Good morning. So, today, folks, we'll be discussing something about nutrition recommendations. Now, this is something that you will see everywhere on the internet. There are websites talking about nutrition, superfoods, and best foods to consume. And then there are people who call themselves nutritionists, of course. Then there are influencers who give you advices based on nutrition. So, Sushant, let us begin this interesting discussion that these recommendations that they are saying, you eat this, you eat that, this is superfood, this is a bad food. Do you think that these actually hold some any kind of scientific validity when we know that every individual's biology is unique? Can you give some examples of what exactly is happening in the complete healthcare system? Because they claim themselves to be an essential part of the system, but then they are giving most of the people are giving some very generic recommendations. So, what is your view on how much it holds effective for an individual?
Uh, First of all, these all it's a complete scam. These all are you have given a lot of respect to such people. These all fitness companies and these diabetes management companies are big fools. They're just nothing but just using their investment money to uh, create more diseases, right? And coming on to the question you asked, so you have to understand, as you rightly said, our biology as unique as our fingerprint. So some facts for everyone, right? We should know so that they start asking the right questions whenever these every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes and tell them we can give you a diet to lose weight or manage your blood sugar level or whatever reasons. So first thing is we have to understand our body is a sack of biochemical reactions. There are tens of thousands of biochemical reactions happening inside our body, right? And we have 25,000 genes which we get from our parents, right? Which defines our characteristics, they define our lineage, they define our hereditary, right? Ancestry, right? And DNA has that much role, right? So someone is telling you, based on DNA, you have a risk. Okay, you have a risk, then what? Your DNA will not change. So this will always be there, right? Uh, Second thing is the microbes. Again, we a lot of people do not believe, they do not feel this way, they do not give importance to the microbes, and they think, oh, microbes is just there, just in the gut, they just improve gut health, right? That is what a lot of these fools think, right? So essentially, our body is a container for 100 trillion microbes, right? We have everywhere. We have in mouth, we have in our gut, we have in our vagina, skin, scalp, everywhere, right? And so much so that, these microbes account for 20 million genes, right? So essentially, if you see, we are epigenetically or by genes expression, we are only 1% human at best, at worst 0.1% human, right? So our body's ability to deal with the foods, right, is limited to maximum 1%, right? Because we have 38 trillion cells. Each cells have a DNA organized into genes, right? So, so essentially, we need to focus on what genes are being expressed, right? We have 99% of genes expressed are microbial, so we need to focus on the microbiome, right? So that is the first fact people should know, right? We have 38 trillion cells inside our body, 57% of cells are microbial, right? 99% of genes expressed in our body are microbial, right? Now coming into food, right? So I'm just telling you basic mechanics so that people understand, right? So the food what we eat, first of all, obviously there are people think it's protein, carbs, and fat, nothing else, or maybe some vital essential micronutrients like vitamins and minerals and vitamin A and D and B vitamin, C and antioxidants a lot. Basic. But again, you have to take if you take the entire food ecosystem as such, there are it is a sack of 30,000 plus food substrates or molecules, right? So every food you eat or every meal you take, right, you are ingesting minimum 200 300 200 300 molecules, right? And whatever you eat, because you have microbes in your mouth, there are in your tongue, in your saliva, on your teeth, and everywhere, right? And inside of cheek, everywhere, right? On gums. So these are 100 billion microbes, right, in the mouth. And the food what you eat is first available to these microbes in your mouth, right? So they metabolize or they pre-process, pre-digest the food so that food is made available for easily to be absorbed in stomach and small intestine and whatever is there, the large intestine, which is what we call as gut, right? So essentially, this is the normal process, and when they pre-digest, they also send a biochemical signal which goes to a speed of light, right? So before the food reaches any of the digestive part, it goes to different body organs and start telling what is coming and be ready to perform multiple biochemical reactions. So that's a basic of biochemistry of how the food absorption and interaction with food happens, right? So now coming on to what you asked is that there are people who are giving recommendation probably eat more protein, eat maybe drink coffee, eat papaya, do not eat mango because they think it is high in sugar, right? Probably have less carbohydrates, have less some I've seen some fools telling, I'm sorry I'm talking fools because they are fools, they've been using wrong things, right? So some I've seen people telling that eat less fat because it will make you gain weight. It's one of the most dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? Because we all know that a cell has a cell membrane. Cell membrane lead lipids, healthy fats, lipoproteins, cholesterol to maintain their structure and fluidity that maintains that triggers this intercellular communication interaction that triggers production a lot of proteins and enzymes which perform various chemical reactions. So this is all the protein is even brain is 80% fat, right? So this is so all these things are based on population studies. So what I mean by population study is when you refer any uh, article which says that okay, this says that glutathione is a superfood, for instance, right? For whom? For you, your wife, your friend, your dog, right? So the problem is that that article or paper assumes that you are an average healthy individual and every food would react in an individual's into individual's body the same way, which is wrong, right? You just think for a second. Suppose you're sitting with your family on a dinner table, right? You eat the same thing, but everyone responds differently to foods, right? So essentially, everyone would have a different bowel movement. Someone would have a great energy after drinking coffee. Someone would have, irregular heartbeat or fatigue after drinking coffee. There are multiple things, right? So this is, these all are based on population studies, but your biology is unique. No two individuals share more than 5% of the biology, right? So, for instance, the food which you are eating, in your case, right? We know in your case, if I give you a papaya, right? Because papaya have a lot of digestive enzyme, papaya high in vitamin A, vitamin K, and it has a lot of antioxidants, right? But papaya is harmful for people who have very high, histamine overproduction, right? Because it is a histamine liberator, right? So papaya is really harmful for you, may not be for me, right? Similarly, spinach, right? I'm just giving you a few examples. If you talk of spinach is what we know, palak, North India mein to har koi palak khata hai, it is a staple diet. And spinach, because it has iron, it has vitamin E, vitamin B12, it is a go-to food, but it is also an oxalate. If your microbiome, oxalobatic formigene, right? is not there or is not able to neutralize oxalic acid, it is going to cause kidney stone. It is going to even increase your blood sugar spike. Similarly, for almonds, people say almonds is really, really good, right? Linoleic acid and a lot of vitamins and a lot of minerals, but it also have high in oxalate, right? Similarly, coffee is actually high in oxalate. Sorry, coffee is really high in what we call as antioxidants. But in case of histamine signaling, it is really, really bad, right? So it for some people that the some people it actually causes your blood sugar spike as well, right? Similarly, I'm taking few more examples like brown rice. People say brown rice high in fiber, right? Yeah, it is, but it can also trigger ammonia, right? Similarly, foods such as soy or
Chickpeas. Your favorite
chickpea.
chickpeas.
No, I'm talking of soy. I'll give two examples. There's soy is a great source of tryptophan, right? Tryptophan is said to produce certain metabolites by your microbiome, macromolecules, release certain metabolites such as serotonin, right? Which improves our mood, right? It has indole derivatives such as indole propionic acid, which regulates your blood sugar response, but it also produces, endoxyl sulfate, which is a uremic toxin which increases your risk of, chronic kidney disease. So, how much of soy or eggs you are consuming, right, which is actually going to give you either serotonin and uremic toxin both. It all depends upon which food you need right now, how much you need right now. Similarly for eggs, right? So people say eat eggs because eggs are high in tryptophan. It is an essential protein fat. Yeah, it is, but it also have lecithin and proline. So your proteobacteria could convert this into TMA, and TMA gets into gets converted into TMAO. TMAO is independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease, for type 2 diabetes, for obesity, right? So people will not believe that you're eating protein for losing your weight, right? And you are actually would be gaining weight because lecithin is going to convert into TMAO in specific liver, which has a lot of proteobacteria expressing Warner's gene. So essentially, whenever you eat a food, right, your microbes sense what molecules they have, right, and express a particular gene. Now that lead to production of particular protein or lead to a biochemical reaction which produces a metabolite, what we call is microbial derived secondary metabolite, right? Which could get into bloodstream, could give you nutrients or could give you toxins. It gives toxins, it causes inflammation, it overactivates your immune system, and then you have sort of a lot of inflammatory condition happening inside the body, right? So again, I've taken an example of a drumstick, right? South Indians put a lot of, we also put a lot of drumstick in sambar, right? Drumstick is really, really great in terms of vitamins and folate and vitamin B5 and B3, but it can also trigger ammonia. There are certain microbes producing ammonia. Similarly, soy I was mentioning, so a lot of people eat tofu paneer, right? So it's again a source of protein, and but tofu could be converted by microbes in your mouth into certain, volatile sulfur compounds, which could trigger halitosis. Halitosis again is an early sign of chronic kidney disease as well as oral cancer, right? So these are few examples which I've given. So you can't say, that eat plant-based foods. Plant-based foods also have, certain poison. Or people will. I've seen a lot of these fitness companies saying eat veggies. What do you mean by veggies? Which specific veggies? How there are multiple things in that vegetable. For instance, carrot would have multiple things. Cucumber would have multiple things. Spinach would have broccoli, cabbage is a classic example. Broccoli is a classic example. You have a lot of antioxidants in broccoli, but it could be converted by certain sulfate reducing bacteria into, hydrogen sulfide, which is one of the indicator for IBD and diarrhea and digestive issues, right? It could cause inflammation in your gut, right? So there are multiple things. The first thing is that the more we are so what is happening, uh, uh, more we spend on healthcare, whether we are spending on medicines, whether we're spending in all these fitness companies plan where they say we will reduce your weight, put your CGM, we will track your blood sugar response, we will give you more protein diet, we'll give you less carbohydrate diet, we'll give you less fat, right? All these are making you more worse because you really do not know what is happening inside your body, right? Every food you ingest gives you 50 to 100 molecules. How each molecule interact with your biology depends whether that food is good or bad, right? So you have to see that there's, from a perspective of carving out a nutrition program by any nutritionist or anyone, right, or any fitness company or any diabetes management company, you have to think food has 30,000 molecules, right? There are 40 trillion microbes in your gut, 100 billion in your mouth, right? They may be expressing around 100,000 genes. Each microbe may be doing 3,000 plus of biochemical functions, biochemical reactions. So there's 30,000 to 3,000 into 100,000, right? That's a kind of data collection you do for determining what you should eat. So how could this cannot be done by an individual, right? And that's why we have technology now in place, right?
Yeah,
So
I
essentially,
totally agree with this sort of evaluations based on all the metabolites, what exactly is happening, how they will impact an individual's biology. So that's
hmm.
really difficult for an individual to decode. But you cannot consider, approximate. I mean, not more than 10 factors a human can consider at one time. But then we have like thousands of factors you need to see when you're choosing a
Hmm.
food for your biology, isn't it?
So actually, when someone signs up for our service, whether it's oral gut it's probably this is something I'll announce this later, maybe after 2 to 3 days. But when we
Yeah.
look at oral or gut, right? So essentially, we do not look at like other gut microbiome companies in India, right? First of all, we are very different in the technology. They just focus on the existence of a bacteria. For us, it is not existence, it is who is active, what functions they are performing, what genes they are expressing, what metabolites they are secreting, right? So essentially, most of these companies would focus on top 10% of bacteria. For instance, they say, oh, Fusobacterium nephritum, bad, right? Echinacea municiphilia, good, right? They keep 10%, then some nutrition will plan a diet, right? In our case, right, we see if you see starting with 5 million of data. We have, you know, 5 million of molecular data which we collect from sequencing your microbiome, right? We have around, 100,000 genes expression, 80,000 to 100,000. Then we have uh, tens of thousands of enzymatic activities. Then we have these 102 pathways, right? Uh, again, there are each pathway would have different bacteria. Each bacteria would have various genes. Each genes would be either expressed, overexpressed, or not expressed, right? Acetylation, methylation, or no expression, right? Uh, uh, then these also, so you see 102, maybe every score would have 100, 200 bacteria, right? Every bacteria would have 20, 50 odd genes. Every genes would have three options: underexpressed, overexpressed, not expressed. Then, this is a huge data thing what we collect, right? And then we actually mathematically align or with again 30,000 plus food ontology. This is food molecules. So there's a hell of a data what we collect, right? And for us, in our case, there's no human involved here. It's a completely data-driven model what we have built, right? So we could tell you precise what food you need and why and how much you need, and right, and how much should be the frequency in a week, right? Why you should minimize a particular product, right? How much you should consume, why you should avoid right now. So it's not something which would say, okay, this is something you have to follow for a year. That is not the case, right? So you follow for 1 month or two, 1.5 months. Your response to the food will change. So a food which is good for you right now may not be good after a month or after 1.5 months. Or food which was coming to avoid list may end up in your moderate or enjoy list, right? So it is, it is not that easy to tell you what you should eat. Food is medicine, right? So food is, stop thinking about, food as protein, carbs, and fats. It's all bullshit, just not going beyond that, There are various sort of molecules and stop using RDA, a standard recommendation by WHO or any organization, right? They are a starting point to understand which specific food has what things inside, but they cannot be a rule for you to follow, right? You can't say, okay, I need to have 1 gram or 1.5 gram of protein per kg of body weight. Fine, you take that with specific amino acid. I mentioned about tryptophan. Similarly, tyrosine can be turned into precursor. The uremic toxin precursor can suppress GLP-1 production. Precursor could lead to type 2 diabetes. Or phenylalanine could lead to cardiovascular disease by production of phenylalanine, right? So, so you also have to consider which specific molecule my body needs. Right now, it is very, very precise. So it's all RDA is just a way of telling, okay, this is required for average healthy individual. You are not healthy. You are not average individual, right? You have a unique biology, right? Another thing I want to mention, a lot of people are also saying the blood works. Right? I'm not getting into the structural issues of blood work, but simple thing is, you pick up any blood test report, right? What does it tell? Normal or suboptimal,
Yeah,
right?
it'll give you a range and then it will tell you that whether
What
this
is
is
no?
there's a
What is
dysfunction or
normal?
not.
What is normal? Normal is on a normal distribution curve with all the other people who are doing tests right now, right? What is your result telling you? So it means, given that 90% of us are suffering from a disease we do not know, right? And that's a different discussion. I can talk a length on that, right? Since you are comparing yourself with other unhealthy people, right? So it is not telling you you are healthy or not. What you need to do is whether that biomarker, plasma level biomarker, which you are decoding through your blood test, which you go every month to your diagnostic lab, it should tell optimal level. And it cannot tell because your biology again is unique, that it will also be based on population studies or a standard, a normal distribution curve. Right? So, so the point is, whether you're using CGM, HRE, or your blood test, or some form, filling up some 5, 6 question form, and someone telling you diet, it is not going to help you. You do not know you are accumulating a lot of toxins and inflammatory byproducts inside your body because a lot of these are asymptomatic. These will not show up, or these will show up at a later stage. So, just to probably summarize, we can't. Our body is very, very unique. We can't follow a standard recommendation based on population studies. Simple thing, you can't ask uh, everyone to play the same sport, or everyone has to go for trekking, or everyone has to go for running, right? Or everyone has
That's
to.
actually correct because when we are saying that everyone has their own interests, similarly, that is how the body is also working from
Hmm,
the inside out, right?
hmm,
It's not
hmm,
only about their interest, but the food that they need, it's going to be different because it is going to
hmm,
react as per their biological makeup, biochemical,
hmm,
if I have to be precise, right?
hmm,
So,
hmm.
Sushant, this was a very interesting discussion. Any other points you would like to add here before we conclude this?
Yeah, there are 3 things I want to add. First thing is, obviously, these all recommendations that are given by diabetes management companies or by fitness companies or by anyone, any such healthcare practitioners, which is using your blood work or your insights from your CGM machines or HRVs or maybe any 4, 5 question form, right? It is all based on population study. They assume you are an average healthy individual, but you are not an average individual. You have a very unique biology, right? Try for it. Go home, sit with your wife, ask, eat the same thing, and ask your wife, how did, or probably your husband, how did he or she responded to a particular food, right? We know that, garlic is really good for me, is bad for you, right? We know hydrogen sulfide is the culprit, right? So you have a lot of sulfur-producing bacteria in your gut, which causes a lot of this digestive issues. For me, it is not. For me, it is more of ammonia issue or methane issue, right? So it's very unique for any individual. First thing. Second thing is DNA doesn't tell you about disease. Do not DNA going for a DNA test is a waste of time. There are a lot of companies telling you using DNA to tell you whether you have a cancer or not. It's all bullshit. Waste of time and money. Don't do this. Third thing is the microbiome again. The microbiome testing companies which are there, they are just focusing on microbial DNA, right? There's nothing called a good and bad bacteria. Each bacteria has a potential to produce a good chemical or bad chemical, depends upon what we're feeding, how they're interacting with various molecules of food we are eating, right? So essentially, these you need to understand the biochemical functions. You need to understand which pathways are being activated. In simple words, layman language, you need to understand your biology, right? How your microbiome interacting, how oral microbiome interacting with your gut microbiome interacting with your body organs, how oral microbiome, for instance, interacting with your pancreas, with your heart, right, with your brain, how gut is talking to your brain, right? Multiple things like this. So there are multiple interactions and biochemical function happening inside the body. Right? It's very so you need to understand each and every aspect, and that is what is the key, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Sushant. That was a very interesting discussion here. So we would like to conclude this discussion. So would you like to say any few words of wisdom?
Yeah, so I'll say, uh, do not. It is important because a lot of people do not give due weightage to their oral health, right? So everything starts from the mouth. Mouth is the first site where your body encounters good things and bad things, right? So taking care of oral health is very important because it is linked to every single disease inside the body, right? And as per Indian Dental Association in India, like 90% of us have a major oral health issue. So we believe it or not, we are thinking we are tracking CGM and all that stupid crappy toys, right? But we are carrying a disease as we speak, right? You have to understand, fix up your oral health. Do not go for bad oral products. Do not go for mouthwashes. Do not go for fluoride-rich toothpaste. Fluoride is a neurotoxin you don't need. You need nanohydroxyapatite in toothpaste, which is a calcium, right? That's a different science. We could do a different talk on that, right? But these are few things you should remember. Do not disregard your oral health. Do not fall for these uh, standard of care oral health products, which is going to disrupt your oral microbiome, which is going to make your oral pH level very, very
I think
acidic.
we have already discussed the importance of oral microbiome previously in our talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think by now, I think most of the listeners who have been listening to us frequently, they do know that the significance of oral microbiome. But would you like to make some announcement for?
Yeah, we're going live with now looking at your oral microbiome saliva, just a split of saliva. We can even tell you what is happening in your gut. So we could cover all the gut pathways to oral plus oral health, right?
So
So it is,
basically, we can actually decode what is going on inside both inside the mouth and the gut, just using the
yeah,
saliva sample.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
pretty interesting.
yeah. And it's easy because people find taking stool sample a bit cumbersome, right? It is very easy to spit a saliva. You can spit anytime. You don't need to spit in the morning. You can spit anytime, and it's very simple way. And we are actually we can tell you everything, every score. So looking at the saliva, we can tell you your certain production, your thyroid, your amino acid metabolism, your carbohydrate metabolism, your oxide metabolism, your protein fermentation levels, ammonia production, nitrate production, nitric oxide production, right? Everything, right? So we are coming up with so a lot of companies who are saying that we are doing gut microbiome testing and all that, they do not understand the biology, frankly, because you know we can look at saliva and do everything. You don't need to. So essentially, we are giving you both oral and gut at the same price, right? So think about
That's a
it,
value
right?
add. I'd say that's a pretty interesting value add over here. So
Yeah.
Thank you for this, and thank you to all our listeners. Thank you for listening to our talks time and again. And we are available on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.